Doctor Who doesn't really do a lot of sequels, but today we got The Well, which is a sequel to Midnight, although it's only real partway through the episode, although it was actually already spoiled beforehand, so, It starts with the characters, that being the Doctor and Belinda, still wearing their outfits from the previous episode, establishing that there presumably has not been a lot of time passing between these two episodes, and they still can't reach 2025, or rather the exact date that you want to go back to. And honestly, this is one of those elements that I don't know if we need this in every episode. I get that this is the whole reason why Belinda is still with the Doctor, but it's getting a bit repetitive, right? Like, we can't reach it, and then taking the Vindicator, still a bad name. But anyways, that's only a small part of the episode. It doesn't really matter that much. And then obviously they are in the distant future, and the Doctor gives a whole "there's always a human race" spiel, which is interesting because the Doctor Who universe has established that humans will keep on existing through all of history, basically until the end of the universe, in one form or another. So this is very consistent. And says up later when it's revealed that actually humanity doesn't exist anymore because Earth was presumably destroyed in 2025. And then we get the clothes changing scene. I guess people like it a lot in The Devil's Court, so I guess we're getting more of that. And then once again doing it to music, and in this case to a traditional Earth ballad. I do, however, wonder how they knew what exactly to wear, because they're wearing the exact same uniforms as everyone else as they step out of the TARDIS. Now, in the past, the TARDIS used to have a scanner and you could see what was outside, so it would make some degree of sense. But it's not shown here, so that's a little odd, but again, it's a small nitpick. So then they step out of the TARDIS, and the Doctor uses the psychic paper, which we also haven't seen a ton of in the new era, and it was mainly used in RTD's first era, and I always thought it was a cool element. And it's just a convenient way for why people follow the Doctor, although oftentimes it also ends up just being the Doctor showing that he knows more than everyone else. That oftentimes is enough. But yeah, we get a return to psychic paper, and I think that's pretty neat. And the premise of the story is that there is a base that has gone unresponsive, and it turns out that everyone except one person on the base is dead. Now, the survivor is deaf, and my first immediate thought upon seeing that was, oh, so it's a sonic-based thing, right? She can't hear the thing, so it doesn't kill her. That actually doesn't turn out to be quite right. The Doctor does mention her not being able to hear it, and it does apparently whisper to people that are affected by it. But that doesn't seem to be a problem, or at least it's not shown to be, so I'm a little confused about that. What was that about? I mean, obviously, the survivor being deaf could have been incidental, but they do draw attention to it, so that's a little weird. I guess the next thing to go to would be the reveal that they are on the planet Midnight from the episode Midnight, and I don't think it needed to be a sequel to Midnight. The entity behaves quite differently from the Midnight entity in Midnight, so I don't really see... I mean, it's implied to be the same entity. I don't know what it needs to be. It behaves differently enough. So it's weird that this is a sequel to Midnight. I think it's an effective, dun 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 kind of reveal, but at the same time, we were told this going in, so it kind of lessens that. Or at least I heard it being said that it was a sequel to Midnight, so I'm assuming that's publicly available information. So that's a bit unfortunate, but whatever. There have been worse spoilers from the BBC before. And yeah, I mean, it's the typical formula, right? The Doctor takes charge, someone from the military people doesn't want to follow his orders, that ends up getting killed. The next thing that I think is really worth mentioning is that they use the Mercury as a mirror so that the entity can see its own reflection. Because it's shown earlier that it destroyed all the mirrors, or rather that all the mirrors were destroyed, we just didn't know why. I had assumed it was the survivors not wanting to see the reflection of the entity lest they get killed, but it seems that it was actually the entity itself destroying the mirrors, so that's an interesting tidbit. And yeah, so they use the mirror to get the entity off of the woman that's on, and that works. They seems like they might get out, and then the entity goes on to Belinda. The Doctor pleads with it. Take me instead, the whole typical thing you would expect the Doctor to do. And it ends up being that the captain, I don't know what their exact rank was, the leader of the expedition actually ends up taking on the entity instead, which only happens when you kill the host, but I guess she technically killed Belinda, but then they reset her heart later, so I guess it works. It was a little weird when they kept being on the scene, and it cuts to the TARDIS, but, it's fine, whatever. And then at the end it's revealed that apparently one of the expedition members was in fact infected by it, and so maybe the threat isn't over yet. Whether we'll ever follow up on that, who's to say? I thought it was quite an effective episode. There are some small nitpicks he would make. I'm pretty sure there was some times when people were pointing that were seeing the back of the person that was infected, and so why were they not killed? Obviously the whole, if this was a clock, the deadly precision would be at midnight, ha ha ha. Didn't need to be there, but overall I think it was quite an effective episode. I think it might be the strongest one this season. It was vaguely implied that the Midnight Entity might be a member of the Pantheon. It giggled, it was said, but we never heard it. I don't know. Yeah, I think this is roundabout where I would put last week's episode. Maybe more consistent, fewer things that I have to say negatively about it, but also not as extraordinarily outstanding in how different it was. I'm going to tentatively give this an 8 out of 10. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you want to see more like this, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And that's it.